we're going to go ahead and get started with the community meeting. And we're going to actually start off with Charlotte talking about the dates for the 3.0 release.
Thanks. So as you might have seen, we posted something recently in the forum talking about when we were planning to do the 3.0 release. Like any plan, the best way to make a joke is to lay a plan out, right? We laid this plan out in January, and it had some assumptions baked into it about when we thought breaking changes were going to come out. And almost immediately after we released it, we got news that Lucene 9 was ready. So we made a decision that we wanted to pull in the breaking changes for Lucene in earlier and do a 2.0 release sooner, which went out. But then as we were starting to look at 3.0 and what was coming up next, we realized that a lot of the pieces that we were assuming were going to be breaking, actually that we could build in a way that were additive. So as we were laying out the rest of the year, we thought we might have an opportunity to, instead of doing a second breaking change release in 3.0, to actually push that off until next year and continue to work on the 2x line. And there's a very lively thread in the forum. I don't know, David, if you're able to show that.
I just dropped it, and let me pull it up as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Where we're trying to weigh the pros and cons. The sort of short version of it is that we realize that moving to a major version is disruptive. And if we can delay it and make our changes additive, that's really beneficial for a lot of folks. There's also a conversation that Nick Knies has put up about our desire to be able to really not be pulling forward a lot of sort of the backwards compatibility things that we've done for 7.10.2 and spoofing. So I really wanted to hear from folks in the community about what your thoughts were, weighing those sort of two different optimizations of which would be better for us to continue to work on the 2x line or to really push into clearing up some of the things that we're dragging behind us for 3.0 earlier rather than later. And I'm happy to take questions if folks have questions now. It's a fairly long post about the different issues, or if you want to take your time and then go back and post in the forum, I'm also happy to respond. I know that I owe Nick some responses back. He and I have been passing like ships in the night because I was out last week and now he's out this week. But I'd like to try to come to a conclusion in the next few weeks about which way we're going to go. Any questions for me? Anything that folks would like to know about how we're thinking about releases? Just one thing that I do want to mention is that we follow Semver very closely on OpenSearch, which means we only release breaking changes in major releases. So we are absolutely committed to making sure that anything that's coming in a minor will always be additive and not breaking.
It's really great. And if anyone does have questions, you can either come off mute or you can type them in the chat. I was going to say, I've really lost kind of tabs on this. This chat, I didn't realize it had gotten quite this long, but initially I'd been kind of pro, moving the 3.0 release forward and just having the last kind of set of breaking changes earlier, but it's nice to know that there is an option for us to do them additively. Is there any performance reason, Charlotte, do you think that we might want to do breaking changes, or will the performance be the same if we do it additively? If you estimate.
No, the changes we were looking at that we had initially thought when we were scoping them out might be breaking were around segrep, which we've now said we can add as a feature flag to bring in, as well as extensibility, which we've realized we're able to build alongside the plugin framework. So those were the major pieces that we had thought were going to be breaking, but we've now realized, oh, we have a better way to do this. It looks like there's a question about clarifying what breaking changes would require a 3x. Those are the two that we had thought in January would require a 3x. The ones that Nick has called out are around, we did some reporting of versions back to make 7.10 look like 1.0, and the idea would be that we would try to prioritize and push forward work to allow for API versioning. So that we are able to not have to do those kinds of checks. again, what I need to bottom out with Nick, and I'll do it in the forum as we're going back and forth, is I think that's going to actually be more disruptive and should probably wait a little bit longer. But that's the general gist of it.
Awesome. We'll give it just another second. Also, again, yeah, if you do have questions and you think of them after the fact, please go back and add them to the forum. This is, our kind of main method of communication, and we really want to make sure we flesh out all the different ideas and perspectives. Even if you disagree with something that's been said, make that very clear and explain why.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your time, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this plays out. With that, we are going to go to our next presentation, which is going to be with Josh and Xenia. So I'm going to stop sharing and allow you to go ahead and share.
Hey all, my name is Joshua Bright. I'm a product manager with an OpenSearch project focusing on anomaly detection and alerts. And amongst other things, you may hear some background noise. There's some exciting people working on my house at this unfortunately timed. So a number of community meetings back, I announced this concept of integrating the plugins tighter into dashboards experience. The first item that we talked about was anomaly detection and being able to augment a visualization on a dashboard with an anomaly detector to identify things that were in and outside of the bounds. In addition to that, we're also interested in allowing users from within dashboards be able to create and manage alerts. So you'd be able to identify something that you hold near and dear to your heart because you've created a dashboard for it as it pertains to, or one of the scenarios would be like you're monitoring a service that you're responsible for, or a series of nodes that you're responsible for within your environment, and you want to be able to be alerted whenever something kind of goes bump in the night. We want to make it easy for folks to interact and create alerts, as well as anomaly detectors right where you focus your time, which is generally on a dashboard. So we didn't get a lot of feedback as it pertains to the RFC. I'll pop that into the chat. We have made some progress from a UX perspective, and so what we wanted to do is have a conversation with you all and update you on where our latest thinking is. We appreciate any tomatoes that you want to throw at the approach, so we welcome that type of feedback, because fundamentally when we think about both of these offerings, anomaly detection in dashboards or alerts within dashboards, right, we are thinking about how do we extend fundamentally plug-in integration into dashboards and into contextual. So the approach that we're proposing is for these initial 2 baby steps, but fundamentally it needs to scale out for all plugins going forward. So with that, Xenia is going to present our initial thoughts.
Okay, sorry, I'm muted. Hi, everyone. My name is Xenia. Let me start sharing my screen. I'm a UX designer, and I've been working on this design for, alerts anywhere and anomaly detection anywhere. So I'm gonna show some progress on the UX side, and please feel free to add your feedback in the chat or just go right away. So here are our main flows for this new feature. The idea is to address the pain point of complexity of creating detectors and alerts as well. And we come up with a way to start from visualization from the dashboard and to create anomaly detector, maybe equip it with alert as well. So those will be similar in the use. Can you see my screen properly?
Yep, coming through nice.
Yep.
Okay, so we identified like 3 main big flows. create anomaly detector, get notified of what is going on and analyze anomaly being in the context of visualization, and also manage detectors. So I'm going to focus on the first two, like in more detailed manner. You can see we going to provide like easy way when everything is pre-filled with suggestions or some default options that could be changed as we go. Or we also provide advanced flow, which is similar to the plugin flow, but it shows like nice context from the visualization itself. So here's the main approach. User starts from dashboard, and in like the happy case, creates everything in just a small element in a small popover. So let me demo it really quickly. So let's say this is the dashboard. User can start from visualization. We also planning to augment it with alerts and anomaly detectors, which is work in progress. So let's say easy like that, an anomaly detector could be created. The interval, some other settings, they are pre-filled and they could be changed in advanced mode. Also, we take the metrics from visualization itself and identify possible, let's say, issues with that. So let's say all the issues are resolved really quickly. Some metrics could be edited or removed. And just like that, the detector is created. From here, user can start kind of interact with the anomaly detection as a feature. And the first thing that could be done to get some insights is run historic analysis. So also we would show our kind of drill down view of this new detector, which includes the context of visualization itself. So the main patterns are also pretty much the same as we have in the plugin, but they are augmented, and we also going to add more layers to that. So let me show you really quickly the advanced way to, okay, just a sec. It's just being, my Figma is being slow. Okay. Give me a sec. It's freezing. Just I'll stop sharing for just a quick second. If you have any feedback so far.
I'm not sure this is feedback so much as this is one of those features that I've been really excited about, just because it's going to allow people to do things a lot more smoothly, I feel like.
I have a question. Would there then be like an inherent, I guess, linkage between the visualization and the created anomaly detector in this situation?
Yes. Yeah, it's a great question. So that's one of the areas that I called out in one of the user stories, but the idea is that there would be a linkage between the dashboard, the visualization, and in this case the detector. In addition, we have to think about that across like also an alert monitor right in the future, and other plugin kind of items or artifacts would have a linkage back to the dashboard hyphen visualization.
So visualizations, like in the tenancy model that you have, obviously you have those objects kind of live in the dashboard tenant. That concept you guys have out there for tenants, whereas things like anomaly detection do not live into the dashboard tenancy model. How would you account for dealing with that linkage?
How would you expect us to account for it?
That's a loaded question. Yeah, so you might have to account for that in that kind of inherent linkage where it specifically calls out the tenant against the UUID of the visualization object, with tenancy in mind, if that linkage is in fact to be retained.
Does anyone else have a a perspective.
No, I think
Sorry,
that's
Ryan, I'm trying to kind of like make it a more of a feedback model instead of a prescriptive piece. So I'm kind of fishing for additional thoughts as well.
good call out. And then kind of tagging on that, then will there be like a waterfall effect, you know, when you delete a dashboard or delete a visualization, then that will fall down to the anomaly detectors that were created?
Yeah, that would be the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and Josh, obviously we've talked a lot for use cases we're interested in. Obviously, we're very interested in the concept of building out kind of stacks of things that are like, here's your visualizations, dashboards, anomaly detectors, alerts, etc. Kind of all kind of in a stack for, let's just call it an app, right? So we would want to make sure that that translates well across, obviously maintaining that for multiple apps, and further being able to deal with that across the couple of different tenancy models that you guys have and some of the different engines. All the while, obviously, being able to maintain that from a programmatic standpoint, not just click ops.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess I figured out the problem with the demo, and we can move forward unless there are any other questions or suggestions. Okay, so what I'm showing here is an advanced flow, which provides additional context. Let's say if there is a problem with a metric, same with alerting on thresholds, we can show thresholds or areas on the visualization that would provide additional information. And everything could be configured with, this flow being more compact comparing to the plugin. So that's the main advantage of like this zoomed in view for, let's say, create detector. And you can start, again, interact with it right away with historical analysis and to see visualization at all times with anomaly happening. So let me quickly show some brief flow for that. So either starting from the dashboard or from visualization itself, user can be notified that anomaly is happening. We will just show some small indication, not to overcrowd the dashboard itself, but the zoom in view is available really quickly, like in one click, with this like big element on top of the dashboard that could be open and closed with extra information about alerts, thresholds, crossed, and anomaly happening. So this is like work in progress on this. Okay, so notifications are added to the dashboard and under like this bell icon, and this could be refined further. We have anomalies and alerts in the same feed, and user can interact with the feed and get more information on visualization once they click on a particular notification. So for real-time detection, let's say we can see anomalies happening and anomaly grade and confidence on top of the visualization itself, and get kind of a drill down view into particular visualization and navigate here. Multiple occurrences, they would all be reflected. So we combine the best from the plugin and the dashboard visualization. So that's about the notification. I have just the work in progress prototype to give an idea how we address that. For managed detector, we will start to show this, similar element that is shown on top of the dashboard itself with detector configuration. And whenever any like issues with the model or suggestions to improve the model are raised, we would show it in this more detailed view. So that's pretty much the demo that I have. Any feedback?
I do have a question about the notifications. So what triggers those notifications to be cleared? Is opening up the notifications pane, clear them, or do you actually have to select each individual one?
So I think they, could be kind of, the list could be refined based on the time range for notifications. And also, I would love to hear from, from the community on like what would bring the most value.
Yeah.
In terms of managing those, because we would like to maintain the right amount of notifications and the right, approach to the patterns, how they could be managed.
I'm definitely interested to hear what others have to think on that as well, just because, yeah, you'd never want to have so many notifications that you can't clear them, which I mean, in, kind of disaster scenarios could happen really quickly.
Especially as, the complicated part is, those, there's notifications that are specific to the detector, but as we think about n number of plugin integrations, how do we collapse notifications in a way that will allow you to consume them in a reasonable way?
Actually, that's a really good point, is you could potentially maybe collapse notifications. Maybe a single detector, is very chatty. You could collapse them all up into one notification that could, be like a subheading.
Definitely in the context of dashboards itself, there are multiple visualizations as a rule, and just collapsing those notifications by trigger or by detector that would be tied to visualization would provide a way to kind of filter, the most interesting piece of information really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about, the folks that are like site reliability folks that have, these giant multi-service dashboards, and they're looking across it, and how do you, make it so that, you can consume all of the notifications, or make sure that the notifications that are being presented are consumable. So I don't pretend to like have a one size kind of fits all approach. I suspect that we'll need to explore this kind of concept of configuring notifications and what that looks like ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. And at some point, you get to a scale where if you're using notifications, you might be doing it wrong. You might have different alerting mechanisms, or those could be, written out to different channels. So it's interesting to think about.
Going back to Ryan's tenant issue, are there other folks that run into that kind of same situation?
Hi, Amitai here from Logs.
Hey.
I have a question regarding the anomaly detection dashboard we were looking at a moment ago. I mean, most of the dashboards that we create are like we create them, right? And keep on using OpenSearch dashboards will create a dashboard that we find insightful. Would it make sense that also to enable the users to be able to create their own anomaly dashboard that makes sense to them? Because you're saying like these all these incidents that were on the right side, that might be a lot, might be much for us, or some of these detectors might be chatty. I mean, I've built dashboards that have different parts in them that I decided I'll just remove because they're too noisy and they don't give me any value. It kind of makes sense that this type of dashboard would be configurable, no?
So you're thinking from a user perspective, I have a overarching dashboard that has visualizations within it, and when I'm interested in going and diving a little bit deeper into the details, right, that's ultimately another detailed view, which is, another dashboard essentially, right? Or view. You're saying it would be great if you had the ability to configure what that kind of detailed view looks like.
Yeah, it's like I feel like we're not eating our own dog food in a sense, because we have this whole OpenSearch dashboards thing, but we're not using it to create the dashboard for anomaly detection. We're creating a unique like user view for it, right? And then you kind of have this situation where there's overall complexity that grows in the system rather than making the dashboards better overall and more configurable. We're making these UI elements that are going to be maintained like into the distant future. I feel like we could be leveraging the fact that we have a really great dashboards product that can be used, you know, under at least under the hood in a way that's more and more visible to the user, so they can like change it and say, oh, I really don't like this panel on the right, I'm just going to cancel it, and that'll work fine because they're just canceling a dashboards panel.
Gotcha.
I
That's
see. So
great feedback.
yeah, so like you're saying, instead of the pop-out view, having it built onto the dashboard itself.
Yeah, wouldn't it, you know, wouldn't it be great if we had the ability to configure a pop-out view on our dashboards, right? That's more like, why give up that element? I mean, if we're going to make it for a specific one dashboard, why not give it to as an ability to all dashboards?
So allowing it to be more reusable, so you can kind of control what's shown on those pop-outs.
I think the point
it makes sense to give something, you know, holistic for the user, so that, you know, they have something out of the box. Yeah, but it should be, I mean, it should make sense that I could change it if I wanted to.
Amitai, this is Greg Smith. I'm just trying to clarify. Are you just suggesting that pop-up or pull out that widget becomes one of the tools that we can use in any visualization?
Yes, what I'm saying is that if we're creating a unique experience for user to check out their anomalies, we should be eating our own dog food. And if we really like this sliding panel idea, then it should be something we can use in other dashboards as well.
I second that probably wholeheartedly. Just because it's nice, you know, the hard part with the dashboard is, you know, if you have to scroll, then you're already missing stuff. So having the ability to add and remove things from that pullout, whether that's, you know, new anomaly detectors or things like that, I could definitely see that.
So this is Greg Smith. I work for a company called SAS. I guess that seems to me, my impression, and this is just my impression and my opinion, the original Kibana product, my impression was new features kept getting pushed into XPack add-ins or whatnot, and the core functionality was kind of shortchanged, I think somewhat intentionally, because that's not where the money was, which I think is a perfectly reasonable. I work for a software company, so you know I understand we all need to be paid. I don't have a problem with that. But I think my impression was in Kibana, a lot of that functionality ended up getting moved over to this add-in or that add-in because that's what was part of the XPack. As the OpenSearch project started, or has been ramping up, I'm seeing a lot of horizontal scaling in terms of new functionality being added into this plugin or that plugin. And my sense is the core functionality of OpenSearch dashboards, some of that functionality isn't being, I see us falling, or the project going down that same kind of path where rather than making the set of widgets or expanding the set of widgets that is the core portion of OpenSearch dashboards better, there's an interest in adding anomaly detection as a whole new plugin to the product, and that this is going to do X, Y, and Z, as opposed to in this particular example, hey, maybe that kind of visualization is something that should be part of just one of the types of visualizations you can have in OpenSearch dashboards. So that's been a concern. Was a concern with Elasticsearch, and I have to say, as we've gone through community meetings over the last year, it's great to see a lot of activity in terms of, oh, we'd like to do this or that in OpenSearch dashboards, or in OpenSearch for that matter. But it always seems to be, we're going to add in another package to do something, as opposed to let me grow what's there and really extend it. Just my observation.
I think I can speak to that a little bit. So that is I do like the call out though that we do want to be building, functionality into the dashboard's core. But from what I've heard so far from a lot of the people that are working on dashboards is, we want you to be able to build dashboards to be what you need it to be. And in particular, not necessarily every user might need, KNN plugin installed or, X, Y, and Z plugin installed. So I think that's why there's a lot of work being done on adding additional plugins that can be pulled out eventually and added on the fly. But to your point, I totally support the idea of having a slide out built into dashboards itself, just as a reusable component so that other plugins could then take advantage of that.
Yeah,
Just
totally
to,
agreed.
just to jump off that real quick.
Yeah.
Again, a little history lesson, right?
Yeah.
The plugins are the way they are in that this used to be built on a different OpenSearch or open source project that had its core, right? The OpenSearch or what had been then the open distro, which I'll call the core, is one piece, right? The fork of Elasticsearch 7.10. All these plugins are exactly what they were, plugins, right? Proposing integrating them more into the core product is obviously a discussion to be had. But again, there's a bit of a history lesson there to kind of understand, where all this came from, to give an appreciation for why it is the way it is.
Fair enough. This is Greg again, and I appreciate actually the ability to opt out of, let's say, anomaly detection or KNN and that type of stuff. So it's not that I'm opposed to plugins. I think that they have a role, and to be honest, my use of OpenSearch dashboards and OpenSearch is a very narrow case of building a log monitoring tool where I don't necessarily need a lot of those features. So being able to turn off those plugins is actually a really good thing, and I'm a big supporter of it. Where I guess I'm the concern, let's put it that way, is that leaves me with in terms of visualizations and what we can do with that, kind of a limited set of limited functionality that I don't necessarily see being enhanced. And if the former project didn't want to evolve them for whatever reasons they had for not evolving them, I was hoping as OpenSearch project started that we would see some kind of fixing some of those long-standing problems and making that product, the core product, better in terms of a visualization tool and that type of thing.
I second that, and I think that the point was, like, when I originally said that comment, it was not that that the plugins don't really have a place or anything like that. Of course, they should be, developed on their own terms. But the idea of maintainability is just an engineering issue. So you have these visualizations developed specifically for plugins, but you're maintaining like these extra plugins separately, where it would be, I think Charlotte's motioning here that we should be looking at some issue. So the idea is that we would like to be able to maintain the dashboard's elements, and you could create any, your plugins would be visualized very nicely, the way they are today. But we would be maintaining one project, underneath the hood, which would be the OpenSearch dashboards project. That's what I meant by it, is in terms of maintainability.
Yeah, sorry, Altai, I didn't mean to stomp on you in the chat. I was violently agreeing with you. I think there are two things that I'm hearing, both of which I agree with. I think there's one more piece of history here for us as well, which is our historical coming from Open Distro for Elasticsearch, where we were, it wasn't just the plugins that were in XPack, but also the plugins that were sitting on ODFE. So looking at a way for us to make those more streamlined, and from an engineering point of view, figuring out what actually should belong in core or in dashboards, I'm very excited to do that work, and I think we've started doing that work. And the second piece, I just dropped in a link to how we're thinking about extensibility long term, to make it to build alongside the plugin model, so that we have a way to create extension functionality for OpenSearch that is versionable, is sandboxed, and is something that is easier to build on top of. So I'm really glad to hear this conversation because it really highlights some of the pain points that we're seeing, both from history on both sides.
Thanks, I'm reading it now.
This is awesome. Also, yeah, although we have this conversation here as well, make sure to go back to these issues and add some feedback there as well, so that anyone who wasn't able to make the meeting is able to see kind of your comments, thoughts, process, because I think there's a lot of good stuff here.
Thanks all for the feedback and also the leveling up on extensibility, which is a hot topic. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, I think what's
Thanks,
wonderful
Xenia.
is, yeah, I was going to say, I think everyone sees the need for that slide out window, which I think is really cool. So it's definitely an innovative piece. So looking forward to seeing it more. With that, any other questions or comments? Gonna roll up. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending, by the way. Wonderful conversations, and like, it's so fun being able to be in a community where people actually care about the project and want to see it grow and want to see us all not make the same mistakes over again. So thanks everyone for your feedback. Reminder as well, we do have the save the date for OpenSearch Con coming up. It's out there on Meetup currently, and we also have a link, which I do not have handy, but hopefully someone will drop that in the chat for me. So make sure to check that out, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys there and in person, which will be phenomenal. If you haven't seen our social handles, check those out because we're pushing a lot of updates there. Also coming up next week, we have a live stream panel that we're going to be doing called the Firsthand Stories from Maintainers. We're celebrating Maintainers Month with GitHub, and we've got a panel of open source maintainers that are just going to be there to answer questions. So hope you can attend that. Link in the chat as well, hopefully in just a second. Also, that is going to wrap it up. We will have another open office hours. That's an open Q&A session on June 28th at 3 p.m. Pacific. Also, that is the same day that we will be doing that panel. So looking forward to it. And thanks everyone for your time today.
Thank you.